What if the suffering you endure is not the world's doing, but a prison you've built with your own hands?
Pause and feel the weight of that question. When was the last time you stood untouched by pain, your heart steady, your soul free from the gnawing ache of loss, betrayal, or regret? Was it a fleeting moment of peace, a day you felt whole, or is it so distant it feels like a dream you've forgotten? Most of us live as if suffering is inevitable, a storm we can't escape. But what if the storm is within, brewed by the unconscious patterns, fears, and reactions you've let define you? Your suffering isn't just pain, it's a structure, and you're the architect, laying every brick with habits you don't see. So let me ask you raw and urgent, are you building your own prison, and how long will you stay inside? Here's the harsh, soul-shattering truth. Your unconscious patterns, the fears you bury, the reactions you repeat without thought, they're the root of your suffering, chaining you to pain you could release. Every time you cling to resentment, suppress your truth, or seek validation to feel worthy, you're not just hurting. You're constructing a cage, bar by bar. You've felt it, haven't you? The way a slight from a friend festers because you didn't speak, the way a failure lingers because you didn't let go, the way your own silence amplifies your wounds. These aren't random blows, they're enabled by your habits, the automatic ways you respond, retreat, or surrender. The world doesn't need to break you. You're breaking yourself, your unconscious choices the blueprint for your pain. Why do you keep building when you could tear it down? The psychology is stark, almost merciless. Your suffering is wired into your unconscious, born from a need for safety, control, or belonging. You react because you fear loss. You suppress because you fear chaos. You repeat because change feels like falling. Every unexamined habit is a brick in your prison, each one laid by a mind that doesn't see its own power. You're not just suffering, you're perpetuating it. Your reaction's a cycle that feeds the pain you long to escape. But there's a way out, a path Carl Jung carved through the wilderness of the psyche. His philosophy of self-awareness, of facing the unconscious, is your hammer, a tool to dismantle the walls you've built. Most don't pick it up. They stay trapped, their lives a loop of suffering they call fate, their pain a shadow they never face. You've been trapped too, haven't you? Every time you've let fear steer you, every time you've reacted without thinking, every time you've hurt because you didn't look within. But fate isn't your master, not yet. Jung's wisdom is a beacon, a call to see the architect within and reclaim your power. Suffering isn't your destiny, it's your creation, born from the shadows you've ignored, the patterns you've let run wild. To never suffer again is to become conscious, to shine a light on the habits that bind you, to choose freedom over pain. Most won't choose. They'll cling to their routines, their fears, their familiar wounds, too afraid to face the truth that sets them free. You've clung to, haven't you? Every time you've let resentment fester, every time you've silenced your voice, every time you've suffered because you didn't question your ways. But suffering isn't your name. You're a builder, a seeker, a soul that can rise above pain if you'll dare to see. Your life's a prison, but you've been the one laying the bricks, your habits the mortar that holds your suffering in place. Jung's world was no different, a realm of shadows where only the brave found freedom, their awareness a key others couldn't find. You're in that realm too. Every time you've let pain linger, every time you've reacted to a slight, every time you've suffered because you didn't pause. It's not weakness, it's blindness, a failure to see the power you hold. The world wants you trapped, a soul it can wound, but you're not a prisoner, you're an architect if you'll dare to rebuild. What stops you from picking up the hammer and breaking the walls? To begin your liberation, you must learn self-reflection, the skill of turning inward to uncover the patterns that fuel your pain. It's not about dwelling on hurt, it's about seeing it clearly, naming the habits that keep it alive. Start with a journal. Every night, write down one moment from your day that triggered suffering. A pang of anger, a wave of shame, a knot of fear. Know what happened, how you reacted, and what habit drove your response. Was it a need to be liked? A fear of failure? A reflex to hide? This act of reflection is your first step, a light in the dark that reveals the bricks you've laid. Practice it daily, and you'll see the patterns emerge, the unconscious choices that bind you. Self-reflection isn't passive, it's power, the kind Jung revered, the kind that frees you from suffering. Self-reflection is your rebellion, a defiance of the shadows that chain you, a step toward Jung's vision of a self so aware it suffers no more. Most won't reflect. They'll stay blind, their lives a cycle of pain they call life, their freedom lost because they fear the mirror. They'll suffer, not because they're less, but because they're asleep, asleep to the power in their depths, to the strength in their choices. You've been asleep too, haven't you? Every time you've let pain rule you, every time you've followed habits that hurt you, every time you've broken because you didn't see. But sleep isn't your name. You're a warrior, a sage, a soul that can rise above suffering if you'll look within. This is your awakening, your moment to build or break. Jung's path is yours, not in escaping pain, but in transforming it, in seeing the architect and choosing freedom. Look at the times you've suffered, the wounds that lingered, the reactions that burned, the moments you hurt because you didn't question. They're not failures, they're lessons, pointing to the power you've yet to claim. The world's not your wounder, not unless you let it be. You're still here, still breathing, still holding a spark of the strength suffering can't steal. So stop now, right now, and vow to journal tonight. Write down one habit, one pattern that fuels your pain, and swear to observe it, to break it, to never let it wound you again. The hammer's in your hand. Strike it, and begin the journey to a life where suffering has no hold. What if your deepest pain is the raw material for your greatest power? Imagine holding your suffering not as a burden, but as a crucible, a forge where every wound, every ache, every scar becomes the fuel for a strength no one can touch. Carl Jung, the alchemist of the psyche, believed that suffering isn't your enemy. It's your teacher, a call to face the shadows within and transform them into light. Your unconscious fears, your automatic reactions, the habits you've let fester, they're the chains that bind you to pain. But what if you could break them, transmute them, and rise unstoppable? So let me ask you, with fire and urgency, are you ready to turn your pain into power and never suffer again? I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become, Jung wrote, his words a beacon for those lost in the dark of their own suffering. Here's the harsh, gut-wrenching truth. You suffer not because life is cruel, but because you're blind to the shadows within, letting them steer you into pain. You've felt it, haven't you? The way a betrayal lingers because you suppress your anger, the way a failure stings because you seek others' approval, the way your habits amplify your wounds. These aren't just hurts, they're signals, cries from your unconscious begging you to see the patterns that keep you trapped. You're not a victim of the world, you're a prisoner of your own shadows, and the key is in your hands. Why do you keep suffering when you could choose to become? Jung's philosophy is a lifeline, a map through the wilderness of your soul. He called it the shadow, the fears, desires, and truths you've buried, the habits you've let define you. These shadows aren't flaws, they're power, waiting to be claimed through individuation, the journey to integrate your whole self. Your reflex to please, your silence in conflict, your need to control, they're shadow-driven, unconscious scripts that make you vulnerable, easy to wound. Most run from their shadows, clinging to routines that feel safe, blind to how they fuel suffering. But Jung's alchemy is different. It's facing the fear, naming the pain, transforming it into strength. To never suffer again is to become whole, to turn your shadows into allies, to live so fully that pain has no hold. Why let your shadows rule when you could wield them? Let me tell you about Maya. She was 33, a social worker whose life was a cycle of suffering. Always putting others first, always swallowing her resentment, always seeking validation to feel enough. Maya thought it was compassion, but it was her shadow, a fear of abandonment driving her to sacrifice herself. When a colleague took credit for her work, the pain was searing, not just for the betrayal, but for the pattern. Her habit of self-neglect had invited it. Stumbling on Jung's writings, Maya began shadow work, journaling her suppressed anger and fear. She faced her need to be needed, started saying no, and voiced her worth. Some relationships frayed, but Maya soared. Her pain became insight, her wounds strength. She didn't just heal, she transformed, her suffering a crucible for power. Does that spark something in you? Have your shadows fueled your pain too? The ache of suffering you've carried, heavier because it's rooted in patterns you don't see. You know the moments, when you've bitten back your truth to keep peace, when you've clung to resentment instead of letting go, when you've hurt because you followed a script you didn't write. You've been your own jailer, haven't you, locking yourself in pain with every reflex to hide, every fear you've buried, every habit that keeps you small. You're tired of suffering, of breaking, of being less than the force you could be. I see you, standing at this crucible, your power waiting, your strength ready to blaze. You're not here to hurt, you're here to rise. So why do you keep running when you could face the fire? Your psyche's a forge, and you've been burned by the shadows you've ignored, your habits the fuel that feeds your pain. Jung's alchemy offers a way out, not by escaping suffering, but by transforming it, by facing the unconscious and choosing power. You're in that forge too. Every time you've let pain fester, every time you've reacted without thinking, every time you've suffered because you didn't look within. It's not weakness, it's blindness, a failure to see the strength in your depths. The world wants you trapped, a soul it can wound, but you're not trapped, you're unformed, a force waiting to be forged. What stops you from stepping into the fire and claiming your power? To transform pain into power, you must learn shadow work, the skill of facing your suppressed emotions and fears without judgment. It's not about fighting your shadows, it's about embracing them, acknowledging the parts of you you've hidden. Start in a quiet moment. Sit with one uncomfortable emotion, anger, shame, fear, and name it. Write it down, describe its shape, its weight, without trying to fix or flee it. This act of acknowledgement is your alchemy, turning pain into insight, fear into strength. Practice it weekly, choosing one shadow to face, and watch it shift from a chain to a spark. Shadow work isn't easy. It's courage, the kind Jung revered, the kind that frees you from suffering's grip. The fire burns here, where the air hums with possibility. Shadow work is your rebellion, a defiance of the patterns that bind you, a step toward Jung's vision of a self so whole it suffers no more. Most won't rebel. They'll stay blind, their lives a cycle of pain they call fate, their freedom lost because they fear the dark. They'll suffer, not because they're less, but because they're asleep to the power in their shadows, to the strength in their choices. You've been asleep too, haven't you? Every time you've let pain rule you, every time you've followed habits that hurt you, every time you've broken because you didn't see. But sleep isn't your name. You're a warrior, a sage, a soul that can rise above suffering if you'll face the truth. This is your crucible, your moment to forge or falter. Jung's alchemy is yours, not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it, in seeing the shadows and choosing power. Look at the times you've suffered, the wounds that lingered, the reactions that burned, the moments you hurt because you didn't question. They're not failures, they're lessons, pointing to the power you've yet to claim. The world's not your wounder, not unless you let it be. You're still here, still breathing, still holding a spark of the strength suffering can't steal. So stop now, right now, and vow to face one shadow this week. Sit with one uncomfortable emotion, name it, write it, embrace it. Swear to start, reader, to transform your pain into power, to never suffer again. The forge is hot. Step in and let your alchemy begin. What would happen if you became so resilient that no pain could hold you down? Imagine yourself as a phoenix, rising from the ashes of every wound, your soul forged in the fire of suffering, now untouchable, radiant, free. Carl Jung's vision of individuation, the journey to integrate your shadows and become whole, isn't just healing. It's the art of resilience, a skill that lifts you above pain's grasp, where suffering becomes a fleeting shadow, powerless against your truth. Your unconscious habits, your automatic reactions, they've anchored you to pain, haven't they, pulling you back into cycles you long to escape? So let me ask you, with urgency that burns, what if you could forge a resilience so fierce that suffering never touches you again? The philosophy is as bold as it is liberating. Resilience is not a gift, it's a craft, built through Jungian self-integration, conscious choice, and the courage to break the cycles that bind you to pain. Jung taught that suffering stems from the shadows you ignore, the unconscious patterns that steer you into hurt, your reflex to suppress anger, your need to please, your fear of standing alone. They're not just habits, they're chains linking you to pain with every unexamined step. To forge resilience is to break these chains, to face your shadows, to choose responses that free you rather than bind you. Most don't forge, they cling to their routines, their fears, their familiar wounds, too afraid to craft a self that rises above. You've clung to, haven't you? Every time you've let pain linger, every time you've reacted without thinking, every time you've suffered because you didn't choose. Why stay chained when you could soar? That which does not kill us makes us stronger, Nietzsche declared, a truth that echoes Jung's call to transform suffering into power. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain, it's about reframing it, using every wound as a forge to strengthen your soul. It's choosing to see betrayal as a lesson in boundaries, failure as a spark of growth, loss as a path to clarity. Most lack this craft. They let pain define them, their lives a cycle of suffering they call fate, their resilience unformed because they fear the fire of change. You've let pain define you too, haven't you? Every time you've dwelled on a hurt, every time you've followed habits that fed your wounds, every time you've broken because you didn't reframe. But fate isn't your master, not yet. You're a phoenix waiting to rise. The harsh, bone-deep truth is this. Your suffering persists because you let it, your unconscious habits building a stage where pain plays its role. Every time you react without pause, suppress instead of express, or follow the script of fear, you're not just hurting, you're enabling, giving suffering a home in your soul. The world doesn't need to wound you. Your patterns do that work, amplifying every slight, every loss, every regret. Resilience, though, is your rebellion, a choice to rewrite the script, to see pain as raw material for strength. Most will never choose. They'll stay trapped, their lives a loop of reactions they call life, their freedom lost because they fear the forge. You've been trapped too, haven't you? Every time you've let a wound fester, every time you've followed routines that hurt you, every time you've suffered because you didn't rise. But suffering isn't your name. You're a craftsman if you'll dare to forge. The drama surges here, where the stakes feel like a storm breaking within. Your soul's a forge, but you've let it burn you, your habits the fuel that feeds your pain. Jung's world was no different. A crucible of shadows where only the resilient found freedom, their awareness a flame others couldn't touch. You're in that crucible too. Every time you've let pain rule you, every time you've reacted to a slight, every time you've suffered because you didn't reframe. It's not weakness, it's waste, a squandering of the strength resilience could give you. The world wants you fragile, a heart it can bruise, but you're not fragile, you're fierce if you'll dare to forge. What stops you from striking the hammer and rising above? To forge resilience, you must learn emotional reframing, the skill of reinterpreting pain as a lesson rather than a wound. It's not about denying hurt, it's about transforming it, seeing every painful moment as a teacher of strength, growth, or truth. Start with one experience that still stings, a rejection, a failure, a loss. Write it down, what happened, how it felt, and then reframe it. What did it teach you about your boundaries, your courage, your values? If a friend's betrayal hurt, maybe it showed you the power of self-reliance. If a failure crushed you, maybe it sparked a new path. Practice this weekly, choosing one pain to reframe, and watch it shift from a chain to a spark. Emotional reframing is your hammer, the kind Jung revered, the kind that builds a life beyond suffering. Emotional reframing is your rebellion, a defiance of the habits that bind you, a step toward Jung's vision of a self, so resilient it suffers no more. Most won't reframe. They'll stay fragile, their lives a cycle of pain they call fate, their freedom lost because they fear the work. They'll suffer, not because they're less, but because they're blind to the power in their pain, to the strength in their choices. You've been blind too, haven't you? Every time you've let a wound define you, every time you've followed patterns that hurt you, every time you've broken because you didn't see. But blindness isn't your name. You're a phoenix, a sage, a soul that can rise above suffering if you'll reframe the fire. Jung's path is yours, not in escaping pain, but in transforming it, in seeing the lessons and choosing strength. Look at the times you've suffered, the wounds that lingered, the reactions that burned, the moments you hurt because you didn't reframe. They're not failures, they're lessons, pointing to the power you've yet to claim. The world's not your wounder, not unless you let it be. You're still here, still breathing, still holding a spark of the strength suffering can't steal. So stop now, right now, and vow to reframe one painful moment this week. Write it down, find its lesson, swear to see it as growth. Strike the hammer, and forge a resilience that lifts you above pain forever. The world marvels at a soul so free that suffering cannot touch its light. Envision yourself standing unshaken, your heart a fortress, your spirit a flame that no pain can dim. You've faced your shadows, broken the chains of unconscious habits, and forged a resilience that lifts you above suffering's grasp. Carl Jung's vision of individuation, the journey to become whole, culminates here, in a liberated life where pain is a fleeting shadow, powerless against the truth you've claimed. Your old patterns, your automatic reactions, they once anchored you to suffering, didn't they, pulling you into cycles you thought were fate? So let me ask you, with a fire that demands an answer, can you live so boldly that suffering becomes a stranger, your life a testament to freedom? Most will remain trapped in suffering, too afraid to face their shadows or break their habits, choosing pain over transformation. They'll cling to their routines, the need to please, the resentment they nurse, the fears they hide, because it's easier to hurt than to heal. You've seen them, weighed down by regrets, broken by slights, their lives a cycle of pain they call life. They're not weak, they're unwilling, too scared to forge the awareness that sets them free, too tethered to familiarity to claim their power. That's the tragedy of unconscious living. It promises safety but delivers suffering, keeping you bound while the world moves on. You're not meant to join them. You're meant to soar, a liberated soul in a world of chains. Your freedom a light no pain can touch. Why settle for their prison when you could live unbound? Jung's philosophy is your liberation, a call to integrate your shadows and choose a life beyond suffering. His concept of individuation isn't just growth, it's transcendence, a state where you're so whole, so conscious, that pain has no hold. Your habits of reacting without thought, of suppressing your truth, of following fear's script, they've been your anchors, dragging you into suffering with every unexamined step. But the liberated life breaks these anchors, choosing responses that align with your truth, not your pain. Most won't choose. They'll stay trapped, their lives a series of reactions to wounds they never healed, their freedom lost because they fear the light. You've been trapped too, haven't you? Every time you've let pain define you, every time you've followed patterns that hurt you, every time you've suffered because you didn't choose. But suffering isn't your name. You're a phoenix if you'll dare to rise. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. Jung wrote, a truth that lights the path to your liberated life. The choice is your power, not to avoid pain, but to transcend it, to see every wound as a lesson, every hurt as a spark of strength. Most lack this choice. They let suffering shape them, their lives a loop of pain they call fate, their liberation unclaimed because they fear the work. You've let pain shape you too, haven't you? Every time you've dwelled on a wound, every time you've reacted without pause, every time you've broken because you didn't choose. But fate isn't your master, not yet. You're a sovereign, waiting to claim a life where suffering has no power. Your life's a crucible, and you've been burned by the habits you fed to the flames. Jung's world was no different, a realm of shadows where only the conscious found freedom, their choices a flame others couldn't touch. You're in that crucible too. Every time you've let pain rule you, every time you've reacted to a slight, every time you've suffered because you didn't choose. It's not weakness, it's waste, a squandering of the freedom choice could give you. The world wants you fragile, a heart it can bruise, but you're not fragile. You're fierce if you'll dare to choose. What stops you from stepping into the light and claiming your liberation? To live beyond suffering, you must master conscious choice, the skill of aligning every decision with your values, not your fears. It's not about reacting to pain. It's about choosing responses that honor your truth. Start each day with one deliberate decision. When faced with a trigger, a criticism, a fear, a moment of doubt, pause and ask, what choice reflects my strength, my purpose, my freedom? If a colleague's slight tempts you to lash out, choose silence or calm assertion. If fear urges you to hide, choose courage or vulnerability. Write down one choice daily, noting how it felt to act from intention, not impulse. This practice is your crown, building a life where suffering can't take root. Conscious choice is your power, the kind Jung revered, the kind that frees you forever. The fire roars here, where the air crackles with possibility. Conscious choice is your rebellion, a defiance of the patterns that bind you, a step toward Jung's vision of a self so whole it suffers no more. Most won't choose. They'll stay fragile, their lives a cycle of pain they call fate, their freedom lost because they fear the work. They'll suffer not because they're less, but because they're blind to the power in their choices, to the strength in their truth. You've been blind too, haven't you? Every time you've let pain steer you, every time you've followed habits that hurt you, every time you've broken because you didn't choose. But blindness isn't your name. You're a phoenix, a sage, a soul that can rise above suffering if you'll choose the light. This is your liberation, your moment to rise or falter. Jung's path is yours, not in escaping pain, but in transcending it, in choosing a life where suffering has no hold. Look at the times you've suffered, the wounds that lingered, the reactions that burned, the moments you hurt because you didn't choose. They're not failures, they're lessons, pointing to the power you've yet to claim. The world's not your wounder, not unless you let it be. You're still here, still breathing, still holding a spark of the strength suffering can't steal. So stop now, right now, and vow to make one conscious choice today. Align it with your truth, write it down, swear to build a life beyond pain. The light's yours, claim it, and let your liberation begin. What will you do with this freedom? The liberated life doesn't just heal, it transforms. Your choice is a flame that reshapes the world around you. Jung's vision is yours. Face your shadows, break your chains, choose your truth. Most will stumble, too scared to choose, too soft to claim their power. You're different. You're the spark in the dark, the storm in the calm, the soul they didn't see coming. Your life's waiting, fiercer, brighter, yours. Step into your freedom, unapologetic and radiant. Break the patterns, forge your choices, and let your liberation be a beacon no suffering can touch. The choice is yours. Make it today, and let your truth redefine the world.